Oh, that's a keep.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Nick's Lotus, your one-stop shop for bruised budgets and board states with a new deck tech for you. Today we've got Tatsunari Toad Rider from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty for 10 cents, illustrated by the talented Justine Cruz, at the helm of 5,548 decks on EDH Rec. Tatsunari Toad Rider is 2 and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature human ninja. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, if you don't control a creature named Kaimi, create Kaimi, a legendary 3/3 black and green frog creature token with whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. 1 in a hybrid Simic, Tatsunari Toad Rider, and target frog you control can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with flying or reach. But our Tatsunari deck has a little friend besides Kaimi as well. We have a companion in the form of Umori the Collector.
Like, are you the father of me and shit?
From Ikoria, Lair of the Behemoth for 16 cents, illustrated by the talented Jihan Chu, ran as a companion in nearly 500 decks on EDH Rec. Umori the Collector is 2 and 2 hybrid Golgari for a 4/5 legendary creature ooze. Its companion stipulation is each non-land card in your deck has to have the same card type. It's actually really difficult. As Umori the Collector enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen card type cost 1 less to cast. Keep in mind that companion actually has been updated. It's a lot slower now. Instead of you being able to play it from its own zone, you have to pay 3 to put it from that zone into your hand, and then you can pay its mana cost from your hand to play it. So it's a lot more expensive now, so keep that in mind. This Tatsunari Umori build is an enchantment deck based around gaining value around casting enchantments and eventually overwhelming the board with value engines and creatures.
You are going to love it.
I am. It's so good.
As we read with Umori, we have to pick a card type, and we can only run that type in our deck. We chose creatures. Only creatures are allowed in this build, but that doesn't stop us from running enchantment creatures, now does it? Every kill spell, card draw, mana ramp, board wipe having to be a creature not only makes sure we have the basics, but it also guarantees we have a full field. In most of my deck techs, I'll just show you mana ramp, card draw, removal, and board wipes that work well with the specific strategies that deck is going for and leave out the soul rings of the world. But in this deck, it's all synergistic, so buckle up. Full list of cards for each section are going to be on the left side of the screen. Jumping into card draw, only being able to run creatures for card draw is tough, but not impossible. Obviously, the enchantresses are going to be the best form of card draw we have available to us. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw a card. Also good are cards like Erebos Bleak-Hearted, turn your creatures that die into draw, as well as cards like Beast Whisperer and Lonus that turn your creatures you cast into draw, so both very good in this deck. Going into mana ramp, this was the easiest. A full list is on your screen, but some of my favorites are Herald of the Pantheon, netting us a ton of mana by making our enchantments cost 1 less, but also gaining us a life when we play an enchantment. Armored Scrapgorger is another one of my favorites, shutting down graveyard decks while getting bigger and ramping us. Plus, Tireless Provisioner never hurt anyone, turning our lands into treasure or food if we need it. Solid ramp package. Moving to removal, this was the toughest, but we definitely found some good ones. Some of my favorites are Mirror Shell Crab, allowing us to run counter spells, as well as it just being a giant crab with ward. What else could you want? Blightcaster, turning our enchantments into neg2/neg2s, which is honestly great. And Bamboo Grove Archer, an enchantment creature that channels into a plummet for flyers. Can't go wrong. On top of the classics like Ravenous Chupacabra and Shriek Maul, the deck's removal package is super solid. Let's move into board wipes. This is a little awkward. We really don't have many. We have Deathbringer Regent, which is technically a board wipe in an all creature deck. Most of the time, we're going to meet the requirement of needing 5 other creatures on the battlefield. And then the other one that I would consider a board wipe is Doomwake Giant, turning all of our enchantments we play into a neg1/neg1 for all of our opponent's creatures. I think if we can chain enough enchantments, this could definitely wipe a couple boards. But also in an all creature deck, I don't know if it's that bad that we're not running that many board wipes. Let's take a look at the early game. Early game in this deck is all about mana ramp and Tatsunari. The new change to companions makes them far slower, so worrying about playing Umori early isn't the move. Early game, quick mana ramp like Lanalore Elves and Armor Elves to rush out Tatsunari is exactly what we need. We're trying to cast an enchantment to get Kaimi as fast as possible. The mana ramp also helps us rush out Tatsunari as well. The 1-drop mana ramp not only helps us get out Tatsunari really quick, it also helps us get out some of the other enchantment interactions early, which helps us win the game. It also makes playing Umori easier in the mid to late game, which is super nice. Speaking of the mid game, let's talk about it. The mid game in this deck is engines. There are 20 cards in this deck that interact with you casting enchantments. So mid game is all about securing an enchantress, then filtering out all the enchantments you play into more enchantments so that all these engines can fire off, slowly draining your opponent with Kaimi and outvaluing them with other engines. A couple of my favorites are Grim Guardian, giving us a second Kaimi essentially. Eutropia, the twice favored. That's a tough one to say. Making one of our creatures bigger and gain flying, that's always really good. Keep in mind, any spare 3 mana in your mid game should probably be used to put Umori into your hand. Talk about the late game. Late game in this deck, Umori comes in to cheapen your Tatsunari a bit and also allows us to play bigger draw chains with our enchantresses, which is great. Hopefully cards like Nightmare Shepherd and Shigeki kept enough of our engines in the game that we can keep on going with our strategy. On top of that, cards like Artisan of Kozilek, Raised Forerunners, and Archetype of Imagination can bring home a game easily. If this sounds like a deck you'd be interested in checking out or building, a link to the the full deck list is down below. If you'd like to check out some of our other content, check out the channel or 2 of these suggestions in the top right of your screen. Show some additional support over on Patreon. Starts as low as $1 to get shouted out and gain access to the Discord.
Who the fuck do you think is watching your... What?
Speaking of shoutouts, we've got our $1 Lotus Dippers, Tyler, Betsy, David, Xverfiend, Big Dog, Horny Badger, Daniel Romero. Much love, guys. Then we've got our $5 Lotus Enjoyer, Telescope Teddy. Much love, pal. Then we've got our 2 $25 Lotus Lovin' Son of a Guns, Mad Dad 316, and El Flapo. Much love. Let me know what decks you guys are interested in seeing, what kind of content you guys are interested in seeing. Go check out the daily card highlight for today, and make sure to hit that like button and comment. I always read all the comments. Much love, guys, and go play some Magic.